Good day, and welcome to this segment of History from St. Paul's. This ongoing series of mini-documentaries highlights many of the people and events related to our site. Picture these images of the stone and brick church, surrounded by the tombstones of the historic cemetery. Today, we'll be exploring the life of Henry Schlote, a German immigrant and Civil War veteran who served in 2 New York regiments during the war. Henry Schlote is buried in the site's historic cemetery, and his improved light gray granite head gravestone with inscription is shown here. This illustration of small houses, an unpaved street, and men on horseback represents Hanover, Germany, where Henry Schlote was born in 1826. He immigrated to America in the late 1840s, in the midst of the 1848 European uprisings. Reflect in this drawing of buildings and people fighting in the street, and black, red, and yellow flags visible. Thousands of Germans fled their home states in the course of the German risings, which failed, putting those who participated in the risings in a very hazardous situation regarding not only their freedom, but also their lives and well-being. Many of these individuals, termed 48ers, were well educated, with middle-class backgrounds as well as skilled tradesmen. We do not know of Henry Schlote's background prior to his immigrating to America. We do know that once in the United States he found employment in the building trades as a carpenter and as a painter. Represented by this photo of a man standing in a workshop with saws and other tools visible. By 1860, he was living as a boarder in a home in Mount Vernon, New York. Captured in this colorful drawing of the street with stores, people, and a horse-drawn wagon. Prompted by President Lincoln's call for volunteers, subsequent to the firing on Fort Sumter, Schlote made the decision to enlist in the United States Army. Represented by this pencil drawing, many soldiers in rows on a city street watched by crowds of people. He joined the 7th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, assigned to Company K. The 7th was made up mostly of German immigrants. It was also known as the Steuben Guard, after the Baron von Steuben, a former officer of Frederick the Great's Prussian army who became the Continental Army's professional drill master. After receiving the regimental colors in New York City, the 7th was deployed to Virginia, where they was soon in action participating in General McClellan's Peninsula Campaign, fighting such battles as Malvern Hill, Antietam, and Fredericksburg, reflecting this colorful drawing of blue-coated soldiers in battle, with many on the ground, wounded, and an American flag visible. The 7th suffered heavy losses in the course of the campaign, 250 members becoming casualties at Fredericksburg alone. The 7th's term of service expired in April of 1863, and Schlote was discharged with the remainder of the regiment upon its return to New York City. Henry Schlote was one of an estimated 216,000 German immigrants who served in the United States Army during the war. An additional 300,000 men of German extraction, but born in the United States, also served the Northern cause. This total is somewhere in the area of 500,000 men, nearly a quarter of the United States Army, represented by this studio photograph of 5 U.S. Army soldiers, 3 seated, 2 standing behind them in full uniform. 10 regiments from New York State, where German soldiers were in a majority, wore Union blue during the course of the war, with additional numbers serving in units not dominated by men of German extraction. These men served for various reasons, patriotism being one, but many of the former revolutionaries, the 48ers, embraced the concept of emancipation and freedom for the enslaved persons in the southern states. These German soldiers achieved notable combat records, as well as supplying critical skilled personnel to the artillery, engineers, and signal corps, the technical branches of the Army. Represented by this colorful drawing of the United States Army blue-coated soldiers standing on a hill, one waving a flag, and another looking through a small handheld telescope. Henry Schlote did not remain out of uniform for long. In January of 1864, he re-enlisted, was assigned to Company B of the 15th New York Heavy Artillery Regiment. The 15th was also made up of a large number of German soldiers. As a heavy artillery regiment, the 15th saw limited field duty until 1864. The regiment, although the number of the heavy artillery units were assigned to the defense of Washington, reflected here in a photo of several soldiers standing near a large cannon set on a circular platform. These defenses comprised of 60 large and small forts protecting the nation's capital. These heavy artillery units, the 15th included, would soon see more than their share of fighting. General Ulysses S. Grant, the newly appointed commander of the United States Army, was about to begin the final offensive to end the Civil War. His plan was to launch what is now known as the Overland Campaign. The plan called for a massive offensive against Richmond, the Confederate capital. Represented by this color print of columns of blue-coated soldiers, with rifle muskets on their shoulders, marching over a bridge, with the soldiers on horseback and many flags visible. Grant and his generals were fully aware that the Confederate forces would not fight every foot of the way, and would not give up easily. Every available U.S. soldier was needed. There was, at this stage of the war, a shortage of infantry regiments, who would be required to do most of the fighting. Grant therefore ordered that a number of heavy artillery regiments participate in the campaign fighting as infantry. The 15th New York Heavy Artillery Regiment was one of these units. Schlote and the 15th served throughout the Overland Campaign, fighting at the Wilderness, Spotsylvania Courthouse, Cold Harbor, and the Siege of Petersburg. The Overland Campaign saw some of the fiercest fighting of the war, with the 15th sustaining large numbers of men killed and wounded. Spotsylvania alone cost the regiment 160 casualties. In addition, men died of disease. Schlote himself was not spared. On 31 March 1865, he suffered a gunshot wound to the right hip at the Battle of Five Forks. Represented by this illustration of an outdoor scene under a tree, blue-coated troops with doctors attending to wounded soldiers. An Army surgeon recommended that Schlote be discharged from the Army. The war at this point was drawing to a close. Schlote was kept in uniform until August of 1865 and was finally discharged, represented by this certificate, with writing and a small picture of an eagle. Schlote returned to Mount Vernon and married Catherine, who was also a German immigrant, and his junior by 21 years. The couple had 2 children, a son and a daughter. This was a time of population growth and expansion in the New York City area. Men involved in the building trade such as Henry Schlote had no problem finding employment, reflected in this black and white photo of men in work clothes sitting on a wooden frame of a house under construction. By 1879, Henry was feeling the effects of the wound he had suffered at Five Forks 14 years before. He applied for and received a pension from the government. Henry Schlote passed away on 1 October 1886 at the age of 60. He is buried in the Mount Vernon City section of the cemetery, shown here, as he is not a member of the St. Paul's congregation. The former infantry and artilleryman's grave is marked with a standard small marble government-issued headstone, which is shown here. These headstones were authorized by Congress as a form of gratitude and social responsibility to men who had served in the Civil War. Henry Schlote's stone is one of the earliest monuments to a Civil War soldier or sailor in our cemetery. Thank you for being with us today, and join us again for more History from St. Paul's.